Now we're going to work a few last subtraction problems, and what I'd like you to do is pause the video, go ahead and try to work these out yourself on paper, then restart the video and check them along with me. The first problem is 16 minus 20. I'm going to assume you've done what I've asked and that you have paused the video and tried to work it out yourself. I'm going to solve it a couple of different ways. First of all, I'm going to solve it using a number line. So we've got a positive 16, which means that I am going to use I'm going to go here on the number line to positive 16, which is right here past the 15 on the positive side. And because it's minus 20, that means, sorry, my pen's acting kind of a little bit goofy. That means that I'm going to travel to the left, which is the negative direction, and I'm going to travel 20 different places. So if I were to hop 20 spaces to the left from the positive 16, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I'm getting tired. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So 20 places to the left, and I went to the left because that's the negative direction. So if I started at positive 16, travel 20 places to the left, that is going to leave me with a negative 4 because that's where I ended up on the number line. Another way that I like to think of subtraction is, as we've described in the previous examples, previous videos, if you've got minus a positive, that's actually the same thing as adding a negative. I kind of like to think of it that way because then I don't have to keep the rules for adding and subtracting separate. I can just think of them as the same thing. So this is really the same thing as putting together a positive 16 with a negative 20. I've drawn a picture of a positive 16 here together with 20 negatives. So we know that when positives and negatives get together, they cancel each other out. So I've got 16 positives here. I'm going to count out 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 negatives here. So when these 16 positives and those 16 negatives get together, they're going to cancel each other out, which again leaves me with 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives. So either way, the answer to 16 minus 20 is negative 4. Moving onward, I'm going to go to the next slide. So 100 minus 20. So I'm starting out with a positive 100. I'm taking away a negative 20. And this one I'm actually only going to solve one way. So right here, I'm going to assume that these 100 little squares, there's 100 of them. So it's a positive 100. Minus means take away 20. So I'm just going to take away. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this is 20 little squares right here. So I started off with 100. If I remove these 20, if you want, you can pause the video if you don't believe me. But if I'm going to count all the rest of the squares that are left over, I would end up at a positive 80 of these squares left over. And actually, I fibbed. I'm going to do this two ways. So let's say I've got a number line. This is not going to be drawn great, but so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and finally positive 100 is where I want to start with. Okay, 0 of course is right over here. So if I've got a positive 100, I would start right here on my number line. And because it's minus 20, I would go back to the left in the negative direction. So 10, 20. So that means, again, I would end up at the positive 80. So either way, 100 minus 20 is a positive 80. Next one, take a moment, pause the video if you like. Well, actually, you need to. Pause the video, try to work it on your own, then restart the video when you're ready to check your answer. I'm going to go ahead and work it. So I'm going to use a number line first. Negative 10 is my first number. So the number line is kind of teeny tiny here, but you can see going to start over here at a negative 10 because that is what the first number on my number line represents. I'm going to hop to the left because, again, this is minus. So I'm going to go in the left direction 30 places. So if I were to sit here and hop from negative 10, 30 places, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. I end up right here at the negative 40. Another way to think about it is that I'm putting a negative 10 together with a negative 30 because minus a positive 30 and a negative 30 really mean the same thing. So here I've drawn 10 negatives and here I've drawn 30 negatives. So what's going to happen when I put 10 negatives and 30 negatives together? I get a total of a negative 40. So either way, negative 10 minus 30 is the same thing as a negative 10 plus a negative 30. It still turns out to be a total of a negative 40. 21 minus 40, pause the video, take a moment, try it on your own, then restart the video when you're ready. I'm going to go ahead and work it though. So my number line here starts over at, here's my positive 21, which is what the first number in my problem says. Minus 40 means I'm going to travel to the left. And again, it means I'm going to travel 40 places. So if I count, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40. So I am going to end up right here at the negative 19. Also, if I put 21 positives together with 40 negatives, which is basically what this means, that means that these 21 positives are going to cancel out 21 of these negatives. So these 19 positives are going to cancel with 19 of these negatives, or 21 of these negatives. There's 10 in each row, so I've got 21 positives here, so I'm going to cancel out 20. So I'm going to cancel out this 10 and that 10 because that's 20, and then cancel out one more for a total of 21. If I were to sit here and count, that leaves me with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19 negatives. So either way, the answer is still a negative 19. Now I'm going to go back and show you guys how you might do it without a number line or without the chips, because we want to start trying to get a little bit faster over time. So, really quickly, and we're going to use, in case you're not familiar with it, there's a little song that you can use to help you to add integers together. This way might not make a whole lot of sense if you have not seen that song for adding integers. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, take a little bit of time, go back and watch the video on. Hopefully it's just that if we know the rule for how to add integers together. So I'm just going to get everything out of the way here except for the problem itself. So positive 16 and a negative 20. So if these were if this were 16 and a negative 20 put together. So think to ourselves without using manipulatives. We're going to try that. We're going to try it without using the manipulatives. So if you had 16 positives and 20 negatives, if you think about it for a minute, those 16 positives are going to cancel out 16 of those negatives. So if you've got 20 negatives and 16 of them are going to be canceled out, if you do 16 minus 20, that means that you are going to have 20 minus 16 means you're going to have 4 left over. And because you've got more negatives, that means it's going to be a negative 4. So let me say that one more time. If we've got 20 negatives, like we do here in this picture, because remember that subtraction and a negative really means the same thing, and I'm going to put it together with 16 positives. Those 16 positives are going to cancel out 16 of those negatives. So 20 minus 16 means you're going to have 4 left over. You've got more negatives than you do positives, so it's going to be a negative 4. Let's try another one of those. So 100 minus 20, well, you guys have been doing that since you were babies. So if you've got a positive 100 and then you take away 20, we'll just subtract here. 0 minus 0 is 0. 10 minus 2 is 8. So that's going to give us that positive 80. And the 80 is positive and the 20 is negative. You have more positives than negatives, so you know that's going to be a positive 80. Another one, so we've got negative 10 minus 30. So in our song that we used before, we were like same sign, keep, and add. So really, this is a negative 10 with a negative 30 put together. So 10 plus 30 is going to give us 40. So our little row, row, row your boat song says same sign, keep, and add. This is technically a negative 10 put together with a negative 30. Negative 10 plus a negative 30 will give you a negative 40. And for our next one, without the picture, 20 minus 40. So we've got a positive 20 with a negative 40. So our song originally said same sign, keep, and add. Well, one of these is a positive and one of these is a negative, so that is not going to work. So they're a different sign, so you're going to subtract. So 40 minus 21. If you think about it, you know these 21 positives are going to cancel out 21 of those negatives. So 40 minus 21 means you're going to have 19 left over after all that canceling. And because you've got 40 negatives, but you only have 21 positives, that means that the final answer is going to be a negative because you've got 40 negatives but only 21 positives. So once those 21 positives cancel out 40 of those negatives, you're going to be left with a negative 19.